Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be going over the all-new 2020 Nissan Murano in the Platinum trim package. First and foremost, a huge shout out and thank you to Tim Daly Nissan here in Murray, Utah for providing us with the Murano. Check out their inventory in the link below if you're in the market for a new Nissan. As always, we're going to do a quick walk around on the Murano, then we're going to take it out and see how it drives. Let's get right into the video. Under the hood here, we have a naturally aspirated 3.5 liter V6 that goes through a CVT automatic transmission. Fuel economy is 20 around town and then 28 on the highway, with power outputs being 260 horsepower and then 240 foot-pounds of torque. Now let's go over things on the front end of the Murano. By the way, this one is finished in gun metal, and it's kind of cool that everything just comes to a point. I mean, even the lights are pointing forward, like the little LED accent lights, and I do like that little black accenting that goes around the fog lights just down there. And then notice there are parking sensors on the front as well, but they still have Nissan's signature little kind of like a smiley face and on the front grille. But yeah, here's just kind of one more look before we pop off to the side. Now let's go over things on the side here. For the tire and rim setup, we've got two 35mm tires on 20-inch rims in the front and in the rear as well. Now in terms of the design on the rims, it's kind of cool. They put these little gaps just to almost make it look like a flower petal is the best way for me to describe it. Got these like little tiny mud flaps there on the side, and it is also in the rear. And then they do have this little chrome strip that goes all along the side. But let me take a step back so you guys can see a full view of the Murano. Here's our key fob for the Murano, and we do have a couple functions here. So at the very top, we've got our remote start function, then we have the unlock, then we've got the lock, and then the tailgate release. Now, we'll do the remote start. We do have to lock the car, and then you just have to hold it down for a moment. And then that 3.5 liter V6 will come to life. You can see a little bit of water vapor happening there, but if you press that again, that'll actually shut the whole system back off. The other function is that trunk release or tailgate release, whatever you want to call it, and that will pop open the rear hatch. Now once this is open, you can see there is quite a bit of space in the rear of the Murano here, and got some floor mats that say Murano. Now if we lift up the floor mats, there's this little tab here that you can pull up, and that is going to reveal the spare tire. Now other than that, there is no third row in the back here. It's just all storage space. You can see pulling this all back here, it's just even more storage space. But yeah, this floor mat's absolutely massive. Regardless of that, when you are done with things in the back, the button to press it down is just right there, and then it'll all pop back down into place. Coming to the rear, and I've got the lights popped on for just a second so you guys can see what those look like. We've got all the regular badging here in the back, and then you do have little exhaust tips out there on the bottom, and then some more parking sensors on the bottom of the bumper. Now I do want to focus on the taillights for a second there, because they kind of have that same like arrow design as the front lights, and because the taillights are so similar in design to the headlights, it's almost hard to tell the difference between them, other than the color obviously and the location, but they're super similar, and I just like how that looks and just the swooping nature of it. But here is your side view from the back. Opening up the rear here, this will unveil the interior here in the Platinum. We do have this really nice wood trim that actually feels nice to the touch, and they got this really nice premium leather with the stitching that goes all along. And these seats are actually probably my favorite part. So they've got kind of this like quilted design on them, and the feel of it is very nice to the touch. And yes, of course, we're going to pop in. So if we do pop in, step in height's really easy to get in, and when I am in the back here, I've got a decent amount of leg room. Got a little pocket right there. In terms of headroom, I'm about 5'11", and I mean, sitting all the way up straight, I still have a little bit of room just above my head. Now over here, we do have a little bit of extra storage, and then just down below, we have our controls to the heated seats for the rear, got some charging stations, a couple of vents, and then finishing things off, if we pull this out, it also doubles as a couple more cup holders, and then you could use it as an armrest. Up front here, we've got keyless entry, so one touch locks it, and then press it again, and that'll unlock it. And then the door panel here in the front looks pretty much identical to the one in the rear in terms of the materials. You still got that wood trim, you still got the leather with this kind of like swooping design with the stitching. Memory seats on the Platinum, and then here are all your controls for the windows. Now the seat in the front itself looks super similar to the rear with that kind of like quilted design on it. Again, just makes it look a lot more premium. And the bolsters on the front here are very soft to the touch. Your power adjustments are on the side of the seat, and then here is the pedal layout. Got a couple buttons here, so your gas release and then your hood release. And then up here you've got some controls. So you've got your heated steering wheel, your stability control, the tailgate release, and then this is for some of the safety tech. We'll get into that later. And then the steering wheel is actually automatically adjustable. But here's one more look at the front cabin before we pop inside. Now the push button's actually down here, so just gotta press that. And gauges do a little bit of sweep, and then it kind of does a graphic on the Murano, and everything will come to life. This is the steering wheel in the Murano. Now zooming in, you've got all your regular functions for like the cruise control on this side. On the other side, you got your phone controls and your controls for the volume, radio, all that kind of stuff. Now the steering wheel itself, they've got kind of like this gray trim here, and then the rest is leather with some stitching on the middle of the steering wheel. It's all very smooth to the touch. Light controls are on that side, and then the other side is your windshield wiper stock. Here is the gauge cluster in the Murano. So you've got RPMs on the left side, on the right side you've got the speed, and then in that little center screen I tried to find anything that was a little bit weird, but I mean it's all pretty normal stuff. So I'm just gonna scroll through the functions, and then here's that safety tech thing that I was telling you about with the little driver's aids. It's just in that little area. But yeah, I mean there really isn't anything crazy. It's all pretty normal for what most cars have in their center screens. This is the center infotainment system. I'll show you guys the camera system first. So you do have that backup camera with the little trajectory lines, and then it does have that bird's eye view, which is kind of stitched together from different camera views. Now, for the rest of the infotainment system, you do get analog buttons on the side of the infotainment system. And again, I kind of played with it for a while. I couldn't really find anything super unique. The one thing I did notice, as you guys can kind of see there is a little bit of lag with the touchscreen response time. The other cool thing is the camera system you can pop on at any time. That's like a little front camera, and then if you just press it multiple times you go to different views on the camera. But yeah, other than that, I really didn't find anything too crazy or special with the infotainment system. Dual zone climate controls up front here, and then that's the stop start button that I showed you earlier. We've got a couple little charging stations. Here is the shifter for that CVT automatic. And there actually is a manual shift mode. Obviously CVTs don't have gears, but they kind of mimic gears, and so that's how that manual shift mode happens. You've got the cup holders right here, and this is actually the controls for the heated and cooled seats. It's just a little dial that you shift between the hot or the cold section. It's on more of that nice little wood trim. Now over here, this is the center console, and again, more of the wood trim, the stitching, all that kind of stuff. Inside the center console, nothing too crazy. We've got a little charging station in there. And then finally, coming over to the glove box, it is lined with felt, and I gotta put that back in. But anyways, owner's manual's in there, and yeah, there's nothing too special about it. This is the sunglass holder up top. You just gotta click that once to have it pop down. It does have a panoramic sunroof, so I'll open the shade so you guys can see that. And while that is opening, you can see that it does have a lighter colored headliner, and yeah, I mean, that lets a ton of light into the cabin. Now we are going to wrap things up on the interior here of the Murano, and to do that, let's go over pricing quickly. So this particular Nissan Murano, with all of the equipment that it has, stickers for about $47,000 before any type of market adjustment. That all being said, well, that's actually pretty nice up there. Just give that thing a chance, guys. It's nice. Anyways, let's take it out and see how it drives. I just wanted to quickly show all of you visibility before we set off here in the Murano, so you guys can see the visibility over the hood, and then you've got the mirror out the side there, and then obviously the other mirror, and then here's visibility all throughout the rear. Obviously they do that swooping design in the back, so it does make that window quite a bit smaller, and there is your view out the roof. So we're gonna set off. First impressions here in the 2020 Murano, and it actually doesn't feel too massive. Now this is a larger sized SUV, but it doesn't feel really massive or anything like that, so it's definitely really good. In terms of the ride quality initially, it's very smooth from what I'm feeling so far. I just drove the 370Z yesterday, and that was completely opposite from this, which is kind of funny. I went from like their harshest car, well, the GTR is probably a little bit harsher, but one of their harshest cars to obviously one of their smoothest. But the ride quality is really good. In terms of the noise that comes through, you do hear a little bit from the tires. I expected that. I mean, 20-inch rims with a little bit lower profile tires, that's going to happen that way. and I'm taking my first turn here actually. Steering is really light, it's really easy to maneuver. There is quite a bit of on-center vagueness with the steering. It's not horrible by any means, but just understand that there is going to be quite a bit of vagueness with the steering. We are going to get our first little acceleration here with the Murano, and then we'll get another one in the manual shifted mode. But yeah, so I mean, the acceleration is pretty good. That CVT handles the engine well enough. I mean, I do notice that it is a CVT, but it's not like horrible or anything like that. It goes through it pretty well, and I can't say that it downshifts, but it puts you into the power band quickly enough. To get another acceleration, this time I am in the manual mode. Yeah, I mean, it's actually pretty smooth in the manual mode. So if you're comfortable with going through in the manual mode, it actually does seem to shift a little bit better. Now the downshifts are pretty laggy in the manual mode from what I'm noticing, but the upshifts when you're on power, it actually goes through relatively quickly, so it's solid on that. And that is going to lead me to summing things up for the video. So if you're in the market for a larger sized SUV, so think something like Jeep Grand Cherokee sized, and you want something that actually gets pretty good fuel economy, tons of storage space, and obviously it's going to have just all of the normal SUV practicality, then this Murano is definitely a solid choice to look for. And I really like this Platinum package. The interior on it is actually pretty nice. Like I said, all the wood trim, all that kind of stuff, just really good interior quality. And so yeah, I definitely think the Murano is a solid SUV offering from Nissan. There we have it, everyone, the all new 2020 Nissan Murano in the Platinum trim package. And again, a huge shout out and thank you to Tim Daly Nissan here in Murray, Utah for providing us with that Murano. Check out their inventory in the link below if you're in the market for any Nissan. I will see all of you in that next video.